live.
Oh shit! Like on YouTube?
Yes, we are live.
Oh, whoops! Can never tell these things. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Two Sides of Politics. Today is very interesting, to say the least. Uh, it's also rather unfortunate because we don't usually do topical things
No, we
because we like
don't.
to stay into the education and not well education of the voter base, and just bring things to light that people don't normally think about. But this time, I've decided to go a little bit more in the mainstream. I believe yesterday, um, what was his name?
George Floyd.
Yes, George Floyd. George Floyd, unfortunately, was most definitely murdered by a cop. That was definitely murder. That was not cool at all. And that's not new. That's not new at all. So we're here to talk about police brutality and what can be done to hopefully stop this stupid, stupid thing that is racism. Dumb, dumb thing. I hate it.
Well, we might as well have called this an affirm. No, well, consider it a week in review recap, but we're really just kind of going to focus on one topic for today, I guess. Um, yeah.
And so, essentially, if you guys haven't seen the video, what happened was a, I believe he was accused of like, I think he was I can't remember what his crime was because it wasn't really explicitly stated anywhere. But if I had to guess, it was reported thievery. Like that, people thought he was running away with something or like an attempted crime. Regardless, he was not of mental stability. But that was probably because he was scared. Um, am I correct in this?
Um, I'm not sure. Um, I I have simply only reacted to the video. Um, I'm trying to find the original. Um,
Forgive us if we spread any misinformation. We implore you to look this up yourself so that you don't get anything wrong. But regardless of what happened, or what the circumstances were, the policeman that killed George Floyd, it went much too far. He had his knee on George's neck for much too long, to the point where George couldn't breathe anymore. And
I
he,
think what you're trying to say is we're not the news network here. If you came here
yeah,
for news, you aren't gonna get it. We're just gonna talk about it. I guess to background, like John said, I don't know. I don't think you know either exactly what happened to lead up
right.
to the point.
It's still floating around anyway.
And of course, if you want to go get that information, you can't because everything becomes about, you know, the racism. But we'll get to that later. Um, so, what actually started this whole thing, I'm not really sure. I know that he was arrested, handcuffed, was walked to a cruiser. Now, again, thanks to CNN, I don't know how he got from. So, all I saw was he was being walked. Next thing I know, he was sitting on the sidewalk, and then next thing you know, he's being pushed down onto the sidewalk. Again, thank you, CNN, for chopping up the video versus giving everyone the whole thing. Classic CNN for you. Um, not to get into a rant about CNN, but yeah, so that's kind of all we know right about now. Obviously, there will be more, in a later on, and when everything comes out, and the whole, people are still talking about body cams, and yeah. So I guess I'll let you react to it, John, first, and then just kind of, yeah, I would just, yeah.
Yeah. What I saw when I saw the video was um. Lola. Sorry, my dog. So going places with her mood. Um, but what I saw was just a guy begging for help because the police, like, there were three police officers there, and none of them reported like he was handcuffed. I know that for sure, and none of them reported any strange happenings. He was just after they got him, he wasn't doing anything other than begging for help. Which, it is a guy being held for like arrest, which could give you the impression that like, oh, he's just scared because he's getting arrested. But if you actually look at the video, there's a much greater amount of force being used than what is necessary. Um, I think that the protester, like, there's civil disobedience, and then there's like not doing anything because you're reporting it. I think people should have personally gotten involved because there's a point where it's obviously like we've seen this happen for years and years and years, and the public should start like, hey, that's a little bit too much force, guys. Maybe you should get off of him, or at least like talking to them before they take any sort of physical action. Yeah, ask the police officer, why are you going this far?
Okay,
Unless
I'll
they
give you
don't
a
care.
little context here. This happened on Monday.
Right. Oh, okay. So it's been a while.
Yes, so I'm getting a little more context, and it is gaining headway through through these riots. Now, whether the riots are called for or not, we can debate about
That
that
Target
later.
that got burned down, I saw that on Twitter today, and I am not a fan.
Yeah,
There's,
I don't think the slash and burn type tactics are a good idea,
yeah,
especially a Target. Is that what you said? A Target?
yeah, a Target.
Um,
Apparently, they were
yeah.
refusing milk to the tear gas protesters, and they were funding the Minneapolis Police Department. But okay, funding the police
Well,
department is
everyone funds the
different.
police department.
Yeah, that's different than not providing milk. They probably could have. They probably did it because of the virus more than just like the protest itself.
Yeah, who
I also
knows?
I don't agree with an out there protest or like a live protest right now. That's just it's dangerous because of the outbreak. A lot of
Well,
this stuff has like a lot of rights going on and a lot of wrongs going on. It's very sad.
yeah. Actually, now that you say that, it was interesting in the video. I don't think anyone was wearing masks.
Yeah, no, not even the police
Not even the
officers.
police officer, and not even any of the
Yeah,
bystanders
right.
that were like kind of shown in and out watching the full thing, which
Yeah,
is interesting. Um, that is interesting in the sense that, well, I mean, I know they're not like what we are, or like New York City is as far as the coronavirus goes,
yeah.
but
They're like their numbers aren't nearly
it's
as big,
no,
but
no, but still, it's still interesting to
oh, of
think
course.
about because it's like, uh, I'll pull up Corona cases. I'll give you a number in Minnesota for you, and then I'll give you whatever county it's in. Minnesota. Okay, I cannot pull up the county, but 22,000. Um, not super high, not super low. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think we were running around at 20,000 in
Oh, of
Massachusetts
course.
either. But or actually, I don't know. But um, yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting number. That's an interesting
Um,
number.
I'm pretty sure that's why the Target didn't do anything because it's a corporation. They don't have You could argue that corporations are biased towards one social thing or another, but they're really going to be biased towards
Well,
class
I
versus
mean,
race.
okay, think about it this way. If it's an inner city target, right?
Yeah,
It's an inner city target, all right? There are other black people, minorities, what have you, there
yeah,
that will shop there. So they're not gonna,
yeah. It does damage.
polarize. Uh, you know, in the South in the early 1900s, late 1800s, that works. But does that really
Right.
work in
Yeah.
downtown Minneapolis?
No.
I don't think it does. Um, I mean, uh, I've said this before, John. I mean, people are racist. I mean,
But they don't have to be.
well, I,
I
I'm
I
on the board.
understand
I'm
that
on. Well,
the
okay. At this point, I've been so dumbed down by the definition of racism via AOC that when I hear someone get called racist at this point in my life, I'm just like, not whatever, but it's just like, okay, it's another Tuesday. Like
right.
what Republican
What else
got
is new?
yeah, what Republican got called a racist by AOC, and then you look into it a little more and you say, um, you look at like the story and you actually read into the thing and you find out what actually happened and you realize that a Democrat did not call a Republican a racist,
Right.
like a normal racist headline would be. Then you're like, okay, this is an issue, and I I don't know what to say. Um, I
I would say this, that like there is no reason, even if that cop didn't like black people, there's no reason for him to use that much force on any criminal. Unless they're like brandishing a weapon out in the open, which he clearly wasn't.
right.
I
No,
I don't think
I'm not gonna sit here and defend the police officer. No, 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 no. You can't. No one can. No one can.
right.
No one can rationalize and say, "Yep, what the police officer did was right." The correct move. Um, you know, is this one probably the worst? Yeah. If we go backwards and we look at other ones, who is Missouri? Who is the kid in Missouri?
Oh, oh no. What was his name?
Scott Brown? No, shit. That's a politician.
I'm gonna look at I'll look up
Paul.
Ferguson, Missouri, and then who died in Ferguson. I don't want to spell Ferguson.
Oh, shoot, who was it?
Who died in Ferguson? Michael Brown.
Michael Brown.
That's why you said Scott Brown.
I knew it was Brown. The Scott was just like the first name that came to my head. I believe that one was disproven. And when I say disproven, I mean that he was partially at fault. This was a total act on the police. Not total. Did he resist arrest? Who knows? Can't ask CNN because they cut up the video. I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't seen it, so my answer is no. But I can't give you an answer until I don't see it, or I do see it. Again,
Yeah.
innocent until proven guilty. I'm not going to take what CNN says and run with it and say that's what happened. I'm going to use my own 2 eyes and make that determination. Did I see struggling in the video? No. Did I see the whole video? No. I saw the whole video that I watched, but did I see the whole scene? No.
Right, the body
CNN,
cam isn't out yet, so we don't know it.
There's a restaurant right there. I don't know. CNN chopped up a bunch of it, and I don't appreciate that, CNN, because that's literally the meat and potatoes of the whole thing.
Right.
And I don't get this. This is like a CNN thing. They do this like regularly. They constantly just take sound bites, and it's so annoying. It's like,
I hate that too.
Dude, I
That's
can't
super dumb.
even with CNN. They just take the freaking soundbite or the little clip, and they're like, boom, show us the whole thing. I mean, maybe you don't show us the whole thing on your news program on television, but who watches your news program on television? But when you're online, you need to put the whole video. Whole video, CNN. Whole video. But, back to what I was saying. I can't sit here and defend the police officer. No. Should he have held him down that long? No. I've heard multiple police officers say that as well. You can't hold him down that long. That's just wrong. Whether or not we get into a debate about a racist cop, no idea what his intentions are. Not a clue. I don't know. I have no idea what his intentions would be. The police officer's name is Derek Schwavin.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the name that's right here. I don't know what his intentions are.
I think. What should his punishment be? Like, I swear, people don't like the death penalty, but you can't deny how big of a deterrent it is against stuff like this. If you take a life when you're judged by the judge and you're deemed necessary of the death penalty, then you will die for that. It's such a good deterrent because we don't have to deal with this anymore. The cop will not do it if they know, and they will know.
Well, I'm not saying, we need to kill the cop, but
I obviously know ex facto or right ex fact. What is it?
Ex post facto.
Ex post facto. Obviously, no ex post facto laws. That guy would be fine if we were fined from the death penalty if we wrote the penalty in after this crime. I would not go back and get him for that. Excuse me. But
okay, so sorry to cut you off, but
okay.
I'm seeing here that there are a lot. So he had a record of complaints. So
oh, he did? Yeah.
Yes. So again, don't know his intentions. I don't know if he was necessarily is racist. I have no idea. I've never met the guy. I've never talked to the guy. So I am not going to sit here and say, yep, he's a racist prick and this and that. Look, you can bash me for that. That's fine. But I don't think I would jump to a conclusion about anyone. Actually, in fact, and I mean, I'm famous for saying that, 10 out of 10 new study finds 10 out of 10 people are racist. So I think, there is discrimination on every level of person. That goes for minorities and, That goes for black people. That goes for Hispanics. That goes for whites. I mean, to say that whites are the end-all, be-all is actually not factual. In the Dominican Republic, actually, it is the Spanish that discriminate against the black. Now, again, that goes to just simply discriminating against black. But still, I'm not defending a cop again, like I said. But
Yeah, I feel like what you're saying is that we shouldn't just blame all white people for this when it's a universally human issue.
Right, and we shouldn't blame all cops. Is this a...
Yeah, this cop.
Yes. I don't. I might come to the conclusion to defend the other cop because what is he gonna do? Like,
what do you mean?
The other cop that was standing there? Because, I mean...
Well, that other cop, if he had a brain, would go, yo, you're breaking the rules.
Yeah, but put yourself in that situation.
I did. And I would absolutely destroy that guy.
No. But even if you turned around and said, yo, I think you should get off of him, right?
I wouldn't... I'm the kind of person who values efficiency and systematic approaches to all situations that don't require some sort of emotional...
That's fair, too. I think I would have... Well, I mean, you know me, I'm not like a very strong built person, but
yeah,
if I was in that, well, I always say that if I was a cop, I'd want to be a state trooper because I would just like to chase people down on the highway. But
highway robberies. That's fun.
But
the thing is that with this, there was a chance to save that guy. Those cops, if those cops were good cops, they would know they should have stepped in and stopped there. Even if they were superior officer, I would have actually punched him. I would have said to the other guy, there was 3 cops. I would have said to the third cop, yo.
Wait, where was the third cop?
Get ready for this.
I only saw 2 cops.
I think he was behind the car.
Oh, see? I don't know the full story. It wasn't there. Not validating the cop putting his knee on the back of his head. Not at all. But
those other cops failed. They really did.
I'm not saying they're heroes, but I'm not going to necessarily ostracize them because they didn't do anything, because I don't know if I was in that position, not would have been able to stand up and say, yo, you're doing something wrong. I don't think it's that, but I mean, if you think about like the police code, and stuff like, police code, I don't think that's what I meant, but
you mean like you're just police training?
Yeah, but like if you think about it this way, of like if that police officer turns on the police officer, I don't know. I could see why he wouldn't step in to do anything. I could see why he didn't.
What's the reasoning?
I really don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and defend.
That's a good answer. Not even being sarcastic. That's just a good, honest answer. I have the answer though. The answer is that guy didn't want to get in trouble. He didn't want to break the rules that he was trained to do, because police are trained like soldiers. They're meant to act as a unit rather than as individuals. Yeah. But that is not their true purpose.
I think that's what I was trying to get at.
The police are to protect the local environment.
Right. Again, not defending what he did, but I wouldn't...
You understand the human weakness
of the other cop to not do anything. Yes.
Yes. I still cannot forgive that.
I look at it this way. He was basically stopping the other cop from being attacked. Right? So like
But that cop, okay.
no, again,
But that's
right, but that's part
you
of
don't.
what he has to do. Do you see what I'm saying?
You're okay. I do.
Again,
I understand.
I'm not
It's
gonna,
his fault,
like,
but he was following his training, so it also is less so his fault.
right. I'm not gonna
Right.
I'm
Okay.
not gonna point
I
blame
understand.
at him
I understand.
because right.
There's a problem with the system, and rather than individual.
Sure. Yeah. Again, not gonna defend.
Of course,
know,
something wrong happened, and it needs to be
but
fixed. But that should be go to the system.
I could see why he didn't do anything. Again,
Yeah.
he was an Asian, so I mean, but I guess Asian people are white people; they're not minority enough, But
It really depends on where you are.
yeah,
Like,
that's true.
in the West has a much tighter, like they've always had a much bleaker outlook on the Asians.
Yeah, I know, but when people
Over
refer
here,
to,
it's the Puerto Ricans, and over there, it's the Asians.
right, but it's like no one will sit there and say, well, one of the cops was a minority. Actually, one of the cops in the video was black. So,
Really?
yeah, there was an NBC video I saw. There was a black cop there, or a darker skinned cop. Actually, he looked more Puerto Rican, but like
Yeah.
quasi. Yeah, right. Oh, maybe he's not black. No,
I don't think he's black. Year.
I don't know. I don't want to sit there and say, oh, he was black, white, whatever. Again, not going to defend the
Of course.
police
Of
officers.
course, because it's not the important thing.
No, right. But I guess this is the part we'll get into, like, we'll move out of this subject. Not out of this subject, but out of this example.
Particular case.
Right.
Yeah.
This happens.
The system.
If
should
this
be
happens, if this happens to a white guy, it's police brutality. If this happens to a black guy, it's police racism. So, I think we need to make a line. And again, not saying that if he was white, this would have changed. I don't know the answer to that question. But, again, and this is factual, this was a white guy. We're talking about police brutality. This is a black guy. We're talking about police racism. It's simple change of the skin. Everything else could have been the same. We're still talking about police brutality versus police racism. I don't think that is right. I think, in the sense, being a police officer is the same thing as being an authoritarian, in the sense that there is power in which you are not above the law, but you are the law. It's why police officers speed down the road and, they say, oh, the Coast Guard makes the rules. They don't follow them. I think that's the problem. Right there. Your partial problem is that the efficacy of being a police officer is being given power. Right?
Yeah.
And it's the unelected, partially unaccountable power. Right? Would you say?
That causes stuff like this to happen.
Would create the mindset for something like this to happen.
I could see that.
Well, because I always go back to this. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. What are you going to call the police on the police officer?
No, but
No,
But
again, no, no, no,
that's
no,
what,
no.
yeah, that's what you're saying.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Look, I think to some degree, this is an authoritarian problem. Again, I'm a libertarian. So less is more. I believe, if I remember, I wouldn't be surprised if he got arrested on the usage of crack or something like that, because one of the guys in the video was saying something about he's not on crack anymore, something like that. Something along those lines, where he was saying he's not on crack anymore, blah, 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 blah. Now, I don't know if that means he's like not sober. Sober's the wrong word. Clean, as far as like he's, trying to be done with it, trying to get sober or something kind of thing,
Right.
or whether he just like he smoked it 4 hours ago, or actually crack. You can ingest it. I don't know. Not a druggie. Don't know. Again, it's something about crack. I don't know whether he was, and it could have been taken either way, but assuming that he was taken in under drug charges, but again, I don't know because CNN doesn't report on that. You can't point at this and say the system is rigged, and then say we need a bigger system.
Well, they don't need a bigger system. We need a different one.
Right. But if you take away laws, that's taking away police power. If we
They shouldn't be as powerful as they are anyway.
Right. So that's the libertarian argument. If we start to combat racism in the sense of liberal ideology, and I'll make this a little bit about politics here, but it'll come full circle. If people take this as police racism and police are authoritarian Republicans, and they start to vote Democrat in the restriction of speech, who the hell do you think enforces it?
The police.
Correct. Look, the police system is not going to change.
Well, in terms of stopping racism.
No, I mean in the sense of like how it operates.
Totally though.
But how?
This is how. Police need to be vetted much more, like, just in general. 8 weeks training program, not enough. Much too early to be released, because that's not enough time. That's enough time for me to learn how to like do one thing fairly mediocre.
Yeah, but how would that have changed this outlook?
Because you can vet the police that don't actually belong. Like this guy. He would have been caught with more screening hidden behind education.
Caught
It's the same way.
I know what you're trying to get at, because they make the same argument for gun licenses.
He would have failed in certain areas, or he would have...
yeah, but how do you test if someone's racist? Look, I mean, his racism could have developed over time. Coming in, he might not have been. This could have been like,
it's
he
about
hates
stopping
this guy.
cops that are faulty in more ways than just race. Police brutality in general. Like, they need to be taught. It's in the same way. Like, you can familiarize them with the city environment and what's normal.
No.
Because
I get what you're saying. But the problem is no matter how much you say, well, we need to teach them the right way, at the end of the day, their actions are what come out, right? That's like That's the saying. What's the saying? It's like pressure brings out the true colors, right?
Right.
In the sense that under pressure, you will see people's true colors shine. In this case, if this is the real deal, right? I mean, on any case, it's like why in Playground in Fortnite you might be good, but as soon as you get into the lobby, you're not. I mean, I know that's a really bad
Well, I
example,
understand. Like,
but you
right,
get
the
what I'm
training
saying.
versus the real thing.
Right. So what I'm saying is as much as you know, would even think to train these guys, throw money at training, whether it's jujitsu and whatnot that Hannity was talking about, in the sense that you have to train police officers to handle this situation better. At the end of the day, the police officers' actions are the problem.
Well,
it's the individual, not the system.
I could argue that if
It's
you train police officers more similar to soldiers, then they can't screw up.
But what I'm saying is that regardless of how much you trained him, it would have not affected the outcome of the situation, given that you're making it about the mindset of the guy.
You're right. This particular situation would probably be unavoidable. But
right. Now,
let's say that he started
the Michael Brown, I've watched clips of that, and there is obvious show that he went into the convenience store, tried to exchange weed for other, stuff, and the clerks did look at it, or one of them did, and the other two said no. He left the stuff there. There was no actual transaction, and when he came back to get the stuff, that was robbery. If he thought the stuff was his, it wasn't, because he didn't pay for it, because they didn't take the weed because he had it. So did he rob the store? Yes. Was he intended on robbing the store? No, he thought his deal went through, but at the end of the day it didn't. So in the eyes of court, in the eye of court in the system, Michael Brown was in the wrong. Yes. I mean, not to mention the illegality of
regardless
the weed, but what I'm saying is
not have killed him. It should have been up to the court to sentence him to death.
Right,
if they were going to kill him.
That became his actions afterward. That changed that, but that was a different situation. This is obviously a much different situation where, again, you put the police more in the wrong. I do not think the system is the problem. I think it's the individual. Again, because when you put the system at fault, that implies everyone in the system is wrong. I know a few police officers, and none of them have racist intentions. Okay?
You have a solid point, but it fails to stand up to history, where the system has been changed slightly to root out the bad apples.
How has it been changed?
Or at least, let's say,
look, all I'm saying is training would not have solved this issue. Would not have changed this outcome.
It's not training. It's
vetting?
It's a longer hidden vetting process where the police academy takes longer so that they can put you in more situations and determine if you are or aren't a good candidate.
Partially. But again, you don't know what his mindset is. Okay?
I would totally ask him if I could.
Well, I think anyone would. But
I just might.
This write a letter to his house.
If I could go there, I would.
You don't know until you could ask him. Again, there was a history, according to NBC, on this guy about complaints. Okay, so
Yeah.
that shows a continuation of problems and misconducts, right? So in your scenario, this guy is more likely to be vetted out if this is a continual over the course, whatever, what have you. If we're trying to vet this guy, that works. But most of the time, and if we're talking about racism, that's not often going to work. Because I don't think this guy had much to do with racism other than the fact that he was a brutal cop. If this was a standalone situation or had a history of brutally beating black people, then okay, you make it a little bit more about racism. But if there's a long history of that, if there's a long history of just straight complaints, then you're looking at the case of not racism, but yet simply police brutality. Again, I go back to the saying of this is a white guy, we're talking about police brutality. This is a black guy, we're talking about police racism. Now, I'm not saying your idea is a bad idea. I think that's actually a fairly good idea. But I'm saying that's not going to solve the issue.
Right.
But I mean, again, unless I'm looking for a utopia, when am I going to solve every issue? But I'm saying that the fundamental idea of police officers, yes, as you said, is to protect and serve people, in the sense that I don't know, other than the police officer harming the individual, who is being harmed. Now, I don't know what he did as far as, criminal act and why he was being arrested. But I would chalk it up as the law failing. Law. In the sense that if you were to directly decrease, now this is economics, and this is where I enjoy politics, is the economics. If you decrease the amount of laws that you have on the books, whether it be the legalization of crack, say that he was arrested for crack, that eliminates this situation and many more. Now, I'm not, again, going to advocate for legalization of all drugs.
By reducing laws,
but by saying, that, okay, now you can smoke marijuana. You're going to have less incidents of marijuana. Now, then it comes down to driving and public safety and people dying from that, and yes. But you start to avoid these situations. And when we talk about black people and, we talk about crime and how, people, we talk about the prison systems being, predominantly black and, crime being predominantly black. I think as far as law goes, I don't think you should be able to rob someone. I don't think you should be able to, murder someone. But as far as smoking marijuana, then you get into a whole different ball game. But the fact of the matter is that the reason that police brutality in the black community is more often shown. Now, again, if this was a white guy, I don't know if it makes much headline. Right. Yes, I don't know if it makes that much headline. So what I'm saying is there is a fundamental piece behind this, and again, not defending the cop or saying that the cop was in the right and that George Floyd had to change, but you avoid the situation entirely by making better choices. Again, don't know what he did, but overall, if you make better choices in life, you're less likely to be in a bad situation such as this. Now, this is an advocate for everyone, not these individuals. Again, not defending the cop, but it goes to show you that if you want to avoid it, don't put yourself there. If you want to exploit it, then you're going to have to... I know, again, I'm not saying he had to change in the moment, but I'm saying...
But that's kind of the issue. These people aren't usually doing anything, and they're still dying.
Well, no, I wouldn't argue that.
There is like 50 black people.
Well, he was getting arrested.
Right, but he wasn't actively resisting. He wasn't like some guy was just jogging the other day, and he was shot.
Well, that's because he was trespassing on a property, and actually that was a couple months ago. The story just came out.
Oh, okay. That guy was trespassing?
Yeah, he ran into a construction site.
Yeah. Okay.
So
you can't. There is no way that it is legal to shoot somebody for trespassing. I don't think law enforcement should be able to use their...
Well, he was an off-duty police. Or was he retired or off-duty? I'm not sure.
Well, regardless...
Again, I'm not defending him for shooting
force.
But...
No, I know.
At the end of the day, with that one, he was jogging, and I'll use air quotes on this one, because this one I don't believe as much as the Floyd one.
Yeah.
He was jogging 13 miles, or 12 and a half miles from his house.
Yeah.
Okay. He was also walking in the construction video of him going up to this house. Now, it came out later that a lot of people walk into that construction zone because they were showing clips of it. It shows where he walks into the construction zone and then walks out. But it also shows where other people were walking in and walking out that were white and nothing happened. But that's like saying, well, I got pulled over at Main Street, but he didn't. It's like, well, that's just bad luck because the cop was there when you went by and it wasn't there when I went by. You know what I mean? So to say that, well, it was directed racism because they didn't stop the white couple or whatever who were walking
that's
through.
dumb.
But that was just the situation. You know,
I've seen people on... Okay.
That was just a situation, you know. If they were out there, would they confront them? If, you know, I don't know. He wasn't there. That's what I'm saying.
I've seen things on Twitter. Now, this is Twitter, so take it with a grain of salt.
Right.
But I've seen people on Twitter claim that they've been in their car, and they were black or some minority, and the cop just walks up to them and asks them to prove that it's their car.
Okay, I don't know
that would be a direct case of racism. This can be more like the George Floyd thing can be more of a police brutality example, but
yeah.
I argue that they are both able to be vetted out through the system. We train soldiers to be emotionless and kill. We can train police officers to be nice and not kill until it's absolutely necessary. It's in the same way that we raise children to not kill each other because somebody took their McDonald's toy.
That's fair.
If we're going to use the police in a systematic way like we do anyway, we might as well turn them into systematic chess pieces. Like, there's no reason to keep their even a chance of prejudice.
I mean, there's always a chance, but
Well, okay, there will always be exceptions to everything. I cannot stop that from happening. But I don't. We can kill two birds with one stone. We don't need to actually identify whether or not it's a racist problem or a police power struggle. We can just kill both problems. Because when you take away police's power, they don't have the same ability to be openly prejudiced because they can't get away with it as easily. Demilitarizing the police and vetting them, let's say a year at police academy, maybe 6 months, if it really has to be a tight budget, because this is a bigger country than the European ones, so they do need more police more often. But 8 weeks, no. See, in the army that works because you're removed from society, but at the police academy, you're going back to governed society. So you need to be.
I mean, I feel like that could work, but I also feel like, people thinking, they just ostracize police and other police officers will be afraid to do something will also work. The problem with that is if you are a true racist, you don't give a shit, and if you are not a true racist, then you actually fall into a position where you're less likely to act when needed, putting your own life in risk or others in risk. I know that was not what you described, but I always think of this quote. So after the Boston Marathon bombing, right?
Yeah.
And the police hunted him down and killed him, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a Boston, police officer guy, and they had this parade for them and whatnot, and, were celebrated.
Right.
And the only thing he said was, "Wow, I feel like a firefighter." Because, police normally get a bad rap. And obviously, it's pretty obvious right now, I think they're going to get an even worse rap. But when he said that, I was like, wow, it's so true. You would never ostracize a firefighter if a house burned down and everyone died, right? Because, they tried their best. They might as well get a participation trophy. That was a joke, by the way. That was a joke.
No, of course. No.
But what I'm saying is that, like,
the police do a lot of work as well.
The idea of police is a good thing, right? It's the protection of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I think we need to get back to that.
Of course. I would love for police to recognize that they're not a unit of the military and they're actually a protectorate.
Right. So if you implement my libertarian idea and you move back to not trying to fix
that
people,
requires you to demilitarize the police.
Right. So not...
because they're authoritarian.
Well, I think... when you say demilitarize, what do you mean? I
mean, get rid of their tanks, and make it so that they don't have
I don't think
riot
the local
army.
Town's got a tank, but I mean,
the state police do.
Yeah, but you mean like the National Guard?
No, state police.
Why do they need a tank?
They don't.
What are we gonna have? Holloman Square or whatever in China?
Right, and in Beijing, bro. These people are outfitted with a riot gear. With
no. Well, that makes sense. Like, you don't want to get shot. The tank doesn't make sense. I get the boat, I get the quad, I get the truck, I even get the armored vehicle. But like a tank. I mean, okay. I maybe, get rid of the tank, that's fine. demilitarize as far as get rid of all that other stuff. No, you kind of need that if a mass shooter, right? So
They should
that's
not
fine.
have access to any military equipment.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with this.
Okay, this is what
No.
the
I'm not
FBI is
advocating.
for.
Oh, yeah. Well, the FBI.
No,
We can get into
seriously. Or the Secret Service, or not the Secret
No,
Service.
Secret Service is protection of the president and important people.
Yeah.
CIA is international intelligence.
When the
FBI
police
is
can't handle
criminal
it,
investigations.
you call the FBI or the SWAT teams.
John, the SWAT team is the National Guard.
Well, regardless, I might be wrong on that, but
FBI is just
should not-
investigation. FBI is Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Don't they have armed forces stuff?
No. Well, they might, but no.
I swear they would.
Yeah,
call,
they got the
FBI.
armored, Suburbans, and that's about it. No, they're not. No,
right.
If they make a raid, they call the state National Guard.
All right, my mistake.
When you
got a little bit too media knowledge in there.
Right. CNN? Hello? CNN? Is that you?
But regardless, the police are supposed to be the easygoing ones. They have the handgun, the batons, and then you call in the SWAT team.
We're talking about city and town police, not state police.
Well, no, I think state police should just be a slightly higher grade than that. If you honestly,
no, but you're forgetting that the state police are that militia that you fall back on.
That's true. Okay.
So
state police can keep
if
their
you
stuff
if you want to if you want to talk about not giving a tank to the city of Minneapolis, okay, that's fine. I don't think they have a tank, but that's not going to change this outcome. I get what you're saying in the sense that it's a mindset.
It would,
but
yes, this George Floyd would have still died, but together with the removal of assets for power and the education on how to actually be a protector rather than a threat neutralizer, they're gonna have a lot easier making decisions. I feel like.
So, in the sense that police are there for protection when needed, versus law enforcement, which is so. Okay, that's a good way. That's a good way to put it. Don't call them law enforcement. Call them law protectorate in the sense that when you're enforcing law, then you need to get rid of some of these laws, and that's where some of your problems are. I
wouldn't say that the laws themselves are the problem.
Well, if he never got arrested, he wouldn't.
Well, right, but what if he desperately needed to be arrested? I don't know what that guy was doing, to be honest. I really don't.
Okay, that's a fair point. That's a fair
Getting rid of laws just makes it easier to do bad things. What I do agree with, though...
I wouldn't say, let people kill each other.
No, of course. The obvious, don't steal, don't do anything. But, you have to have some specific ones because lawyers trying to rob, people who will do it in the fine line will do it in the fine line.
Meaning, if given a chance to be...
Let's say that it wasn't illegal to carry any more than... Or no, let's say that it wasn't... They said, let's say the law is exactly this. You cannot carry 5 grams of weed.
Okay.
But it doesn't say that you can't carry 4.9 or anything above 5.
So basically what you're saying is people are going to test their limits.
People will look at this and try to find the most cheesy way to break the law without actually breaking it.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I see that.
So we need to have some specific laws. But as far as law enforcement goes, we have a very big power dichotomy, or at least we did, where the police were the weakest and the military was the strongest. I think that the National Guard and SWAT teams have become virtually useless because the police are just so geared up.
Well,
What's even the point?
I guess what I'm trying to wrap my head around, and I get your analogy about, less police and, but we're talking about police brutality and, police racism, but again, I would call it simply brutality.
Yeah, it's more brutality.
Whether or not, the town of Minneapolis has a tank or not, he still dies, right? So that doesn't actually solve the issue that you're looking at. Maybe you make the argument over time, like I usually do with economics, but I guess I, in this case, would dive into the problem head on and say this is not okay. So basically, what I'm saying is I don't think you can change anything to prevent that, right? What I mean by that is like the political system, the police force. You're not gonna. Basically, what I'm saying is you're not going to implement a national policy to fix this problem, right? That's impossible. I mean, national policy in itself is very shitty and can't fix problems that are normal.
You can't use
that. So,
but you can.
What I'm saying is then you have to say you have to let this police officer go as far as being fired, and I don't know if he has or has not been yet. I think that's step one. Step two.
Oh yeah.
Step two is denouncing actions, blah blah blah, laying down the line as far as police rules. And saying, again, government regulating government, where you say, and whether it be the police chief or the mayor, because technically the mayor is in charge of the police, again, above kind of the, he's kind of above the police chief because, that's how it works.
Yeah, he's like the mini president of the town.
I believe for some reason I know his name is Jacob, but I have no idea what his last name is. He came out and said this is unacceptable, right? And so basically he should come out and say, this is totally unacceptable. This is not accepted in the Minneapolis Police Department, blah, 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 and advocate for your own town. In the sense that, again, the towns and state, city, whatever, have to lay down the law and say this is unacceptable. This equals, firing, losing pension, whatever, punishment. Boom, here we go. If this happens,
I think you could do that on the federal level and just make it a lot easier. That's one of the things. Like I'm a fan of regulating government on a federal level.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. And I mean, I advocate for that all the time. So again, regulation of government, not individuals.
Oh yes.
So in the sense that you say and you lay down the law, and I think this has to go on every level because the federal is too far away. So you have to have the individual local police stations say this is not tolerated. You have to have the state police state police say this is not accepted, and you need to then have the federal level. This is not accepted.
Yeah.
In that order, in a sense, because if you just have the federal government, it's like, oh, federal government, fuck them,
Yeah, but federal government is just automatically putting it on the lower levels.
But yes, but it's less likely to happen if your police chief or your mayor comes out and says this is not tolerated, right? Because
there's no way they won't do that if they know it's a federal law.
No. Well, what he did is not legal, but
of course not. And he should be absolutely destroyed for it.
No. But what I'm saying is, it's not a law. You're not going to make a law that says, you have to denounce it. In the sense that
you could make a law that says you cannot murder or you cannot kill a an arrested individual because there's no need. And the only reason for a police officer to
But
use
the
their
problem
firearm
is
is in
what if
defense.
what if he just shot up a school and was trying to get away?
Then kill him
Right. So then that
because
would
he's
be in
armed and
violation
he's
of your law.
obviously
No. But
no.
not necessarily. Not necessarily.
No. Let me tell you why it is totally unnecessarily. When the federal
It,
law says that any armed individual needs to be treated like okay, not let me restart. The police officer cannot kill an individual they're supposed to arrest unless they are armed and clearly going to use their weapon to cause further destruction. What that means is they either point it at you or they don't put it away. If they are armed with a gun, then you shoot them if they don't put it away within a certain time. That's how specific I would make. Because there's no reason to keep that guy alive. He was already going to die in my government. If you shoot up a school, you get the death penalty from me.
right. Well, I guess the issue is I would rather see it on a case-by-case basis where it says, your police chief comes out and says this is not accepted. Any behavior in regards to this will be looked at and result in X punishment.
We could have them say that, be required to say that.
Well, I think being a good moral person that you should. And that would partially...
We don't trust people to do that.
No, but think about it this way. Wouldn't that partially vet people out?
It would if it was required.
No, because if it was required, it would be fake.
No, it wouldn't. That's the realest it could possibly get.
No. But if everyone's mandated to do it, you're not going to... You're not gonna move out the people that weren't gonna
because
do it
it's not
because they're gonna do it because they have to. So
which is better than allowing them to make the mistake of doing it at all. Imagine this. Imagine in Massachusetts, the police officers are required, or like the captains are required to say, you cannot do this or you will be fired and charged. Versus, this is not anything about Texas. This has nothing to do with Texas itself. It's just an example. But in Texas, they say, like, they don't say anything. So there's no repercussions for actually doing it. And they don't actually have to say it. So nobody knows. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't trust the law, and you don't trust a good human.
You have to trust the law to a certain extent because the law doesn't do anything other than what it says it's going to do.
Yeah, but someone has to enforce it.
Government.
John. A law is a piece of paper until someone enforces it.
Right, but the government is going to enforce that, either state or federal.
Who in the government? They are the police.
But there's somebody above them.
Yeah, who?
The state government.
Okay, what if the state government doesn't do it?
Listen, if you're about to tell me that in every single piece of law enforcement is corrupted to the point where they're just going to allow this to happen, then I'm going to call phooey.
No, but like what I'm saying is you can say, okay, it's a law not to do this, but the law is only a piece of paper until someone can enforce it. And if we're talking about the people enforcing law, it's not going to happen. I don't think it's a federal policy. I think it's part of the I don't know where the code would be to be a police officer or how
in the academy.
Right. So I guess that's where your answer lies.
You would let's redesign the academy. And okay, this is a big project.
Okay, all right. I guess
There's a lot of things that go
okay.
into
I guess I see your original point much better then.
Okay. I'm not trying to hand over human freedom to law. I would never. But what I am trying to do is make the system do what the system is meant to do. When you become a police officer, you're no longer human.
But the
As
problem
long as you're on
is,
duty, you
the
are a
prob-
police
the
officer.
problem is the system overall. And I mean, and when I say overall, I mean from the federal government to the local government are not doing what they intended to do.
What are
Right.
they intending to do?
Congress today is nowhere close to what Congress was intended to be in 1791.
Well, of course not. But
No, but that's the problem. The problem is people don't fundamentally, and when I say people, in this case I mean police officers, and in the case of government I mean politicians, do not understand the fundamental idea, fundamental purpose of government, or in this case, police. In this case, police are about protecting people. This was not a case of a police officer protecting anyone. Again,
right.
obviously, that is wrong. Government, the purpose of Congress is to be generalized. Again, no one should be able to kill anyone. Again, on the basis of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Congress is not supposed to, and when I say supposed to, was not intended to provide health care via an Affordable Care Act, provide Social Security, to provide anything that does not relate back to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. A law is something very simple. A rule is something very simple that affects everyone equally. And when I say that Congress has moved so far away from what their intended purpose is when they pass legislation, it does not affect everyone the same. It affects people differently, inherently unequal via law. They say, not Lady Liberty, Lady Justice is blind. How is Lady Justice blind when you have laws that apply to people differently? Now, I guess we can get into a debate about, civil rights and stuff like that. The problem with civil rights was it was not upheld in the court of law the correct way in the first place. But I digress, moving back to my point. What I'm saying is the problem is not, it is the individual, but it's all individuals. It's the basic non-understanding of the role of police and the role of government. That is the fundamental problem with everything in government. And police, believe it or not, are government. They're government pawns. A police officer is just as much of a government pawn as your mailman. Okay? So what I'm saying is the root of the problem is deeper. Yes, you can fix the problem on the outset and vet people out with training. That makes sense. I actually like your point. But the problem is deeper. The problem is the misunderstanding of the police and the idea of it. Again, not defending this guy, Derek,
course, yeah.
but the problem is he doesn't understand. And I mean, yeah, he could be a bad guy, and it's pretty obvious if he had a history that he might not be a good police officer in the first place. But the problem with everyone else and why we point to the system and what's actually wrong with the system is that people don't fundamentally understand what it is to be a police officer. Now, some people do, some people don't, and I wouldn't point to the entire system as a whole. But the problem is getting people to understand what their job is, what their role is. If this guy understood what his purpose was, assuming that he
wouldn't have done that.
Right. So I guess training works for that, but as I always say, you can't fix stupidity. So that brings me back to the point was with no matter what you would have done, the outcome would have been the same.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my 2 cents on it. Again, I'm not going to defend the police officer. You can't. You cannot sit there and say what he did was right. No, you cannot. But it's the fundamental idea of the police that he does not understand.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and then that goes to you can't fix stupid, because regardless of him understanding or not, he's still going to act in this way. So I guess I'm proving your point in the sense that you need to vet these people out earlier.
Yes.
What I will say to that is you need to go a step farther in the regulation and keeping in balance of police officers.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier misconducts need to be taken more seriously. If there is a pattern, a trend, or a consistency, he should have been let go years ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Right? So, is that funding? No. Is that people coming in to replace? Yes. So when you make the process longer, you eliminate that cycle in the same way that skilled people should be paid more. That's the capitalist thing. If he's not a good police officer, he should be fired. Right? But there are other protections and layoffs and paying off why he didn't get fired way back when. If it was easier for him to be fired way back when, non-employment or more employment power versus employee power, you would have also avoided this situation. But because they would have had to pay for him after being fired, they're less likely to do that. That's the problem. The government regulation, again, is the root of the problem. So if this guy was easier let go and they were able to bring more people in, new people in, you are able to go through the cycle quicker, finding the right person. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And how I tie this all back to politics in the sense that the actual problem is government.
I have to disagree because we're not in 1789. This country has evolved.
If it was easier for him to be fired, he would have been fired and this situation would have never happened.
If it was easier for him to be police in the correct way,
no, but
then he wouldn't have
the thing
to be
is not fixing him. It's he shouldn't have been in that position.
I know. Hold on. Listen. I understand what you mean, but there is a critical difference between now and then. We have way more things going on, regardless of how big the government is. We have way more people. We have way more old people. We have way more minorities than we ever had in the past, ever.
I'm not speaking to minorities. I'm speaking to the problems of government.
You don't, of course. But the problem of government is a result of change. We must adapt the government to keep up with change.
Yes, less change. Less government. Less government. Sorry.
No, a proportional amount of government to what is necessary.
Yes, but government restricts change.
No, it doesn't. If you do it right.
If you take government out of the equation.
You don't trust government, but that's because the government has betrayed you and not become what it should have been.
There's a reason that the tech industry is so successful. It's very far from Washington, D.C.
Well, it's also not regulated because it's new.
Right.
But that doesn't mean anything. That actually
But that's
means...
why it's so successful.
But
Now,
that's a product
then there becomes a problem of censorship, and Twitter and blocking opinions and free speech. That's something totally different. What I'm saying is when the government tells you how to do things, it stifles your growth, your innovation, and your change forward. If you have to go about a singular way, say even hiring someone, you lose the ability of change in the idea that you have standardized and restricted and not an outcome, but a process. So they have standardized the way you employ people, right? And in the papers that you have to fill out and all that, right? If you eliminate that, you actually allow for change in the sense of how people get hired. By standardizing and putting government is standardization, right? At its easiest.
Yes, at its federal level.
Right. So when you standardize things, you eliminate change.
That's not even true, though, because
it is. If I tell you,
you can. Okay.
If I tell you,
a way that
this is how it's supposed to go.
Convenient.
No. What if there's more efficient ways?
Then the law should be changed. But we get to that bridge.
Yes, but the problem is you cannot change while you have the law.
While you have the law.
If you had standardized, say a candle, right? And you said,
okay,
candle, oh my God, it's the greatest thing. It provides light, right? We should standardize it and provide people with candles. And we should say that you should make a candle this way. You would have never got the light bulb.
That's not necessarily true because we're not regulating.
Oh, okay. Let me change it differently.
This isn't
take the original light bulb, right?
Yeah. Hold on. This isn't about the economy. This is about society.
No, but it's about government intervention.
The government can intervene or
intervene. No. What this is about is workers' rights.
Oh.
If the worker had less rights, and I'm talking about the police officer in this situation,
okay,
he would have been fired years ago. We would not be talking about George Floyd's death today. If it was made easier to get rid of him, to change over people, because people in jobs is change.
You mean now.
People in jobs is change, right? It's why I now believe in term limits. It's why I don't believe in a pension system, because that implies doing the same thing for years. That's not change. Again, the only consistent thing.
All the job.
Well, I know that I got political. Yeah, I know. But when someone does the same thing for years, they never change. Someone else comes in. Someone else has new ideas, new thoughts, new perspective. When you change over, when you have people that are in positions for long amounts of times, nothing changes. This man has been a police officer for 19 years. You have a different police officer in his position, you have a different outcome. What I'm saying is change is necessary. And protecting employees to keep their job, making it harder to get fired, is resisting change. In the sense that if it was easier for him to be fired, we would not be talking about the death of George Floyd, because he would have been fired.
But is that even... We don't even know if it was hard for him to get fired. That police station, are police laws really about police rights?
No.
Do they even have unions?
No. Well, assuming that it's a government, yes. I would assume, well, no, because if he fucked up first time in a private business with no regulation, you're gone, right? So he wouldn't have been able to fuck up again.
Well,
So
you should be able to make mistakes.
well, within reason. I don't know. I don't know.
This is not a mistake.
Well, right. I don't know the validity of all the other complaints. Validity. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't think of it.
No, it's okay.
I don't know the validity of all the other complaints, but if they're adding up over time, don't you sense a pattern here? In which management would have said, hey, this one's your last straw, and you would have been gone years ago. Again, I don't know how many complaints, but if it's more than 4, he should have been fired after 3. Think 3 strikes, right? If it was 2 complaints, then I don't see why NBC is running the article. Because, I mean, my uncle was an UPS driver for 30 years, and, he had gotten 1 complaint. Actually, ironically, in the final year of working before he retired, he got 1 complaint. So, I mean, I'm not saying that we need to 1 strike you're out, but the idea of 3 strikes you're out makes sense to virtually everybody. So any number over 3, or even 3 or more, he should have been gone. But if he's protected by a union and protected by layoff laws passed by the government that require the police office or town or government, whatever, to pay him unemployment or lay off till whatever and pension, all that crap that's tied into it, that causes friction in why he didn't get fired. Again, don't know the validity of these complaints, but that's my point. If it was easier for him to be gotten rid of, he would have been gone. If it was easier to bring people in, he would have also been gone because he would have been replaced. So you see where I'm saying less is more.
But in order to do this for certain, you need regulation. You need to write into law that you get 3 strikes. Otherwise, people will not do it.
Well, I don't know how police conduct goes, so I don't think it's no. I get what you're trying to say, and that makes sense, but I don't think it's law. I think it has something to do with like police code.
I see. As in, like,
it's not going to be
terms of service. Basically.
Right, like in the contract and worked in, right?
Okay.
That makes sense.
Then we should remove that and make it law.
No, you want to just put it in the terms of service.
Well, no, because that way we can regulate every police station on the way like it should be. And police are not a business.
Well, you can use, grants and stuff from the federal government, just like they did raising the age to buy alcohol to 21 in the sense, well, we'll give you some money, So, the old Ronald Reagan way. They call it Mr. Ireland, get ready for this, a categorical grant with strings attached to it. Wait, categorical? Yes. Yep. You're welcome, Mr. Ireland, if you're listening. Yeah, okay. So, basically, in the sense, not creating a law, I mean, there's no federal law, to make, the drinking age 21. No, they said, look, we're going to just give you money or take federal money from you to make you do that, in the sense that you can do it that way, too. Does that make sense? And if you say the states won't do it, they will. As Mr. Ireland put, again, I'll quote Mr. Ireland again. Actually, I don't think this was his exact quote, but it was pretty similar to this. That federal money is like crack to them. Once they get it, they gotta have it and keep getting it. So you can bully the states into doing it any day of the week. I can guarantee you it.
All right. So a compromise on this would be put it in their conduct, but
Terms of service, I
make
think it
it
would be called.
yeah, but put it into law that like it needs to be, or put it into the terms of service. Just put everything that I want into the terms of service, and then, but then why even pay the states?
Oh, that's incentive.
Okay,
And it wouldn't. It would be like.
It would make it
No,
much
no,
more
no, no, no.
streamlined.
It would be like. You put this in your police officer's terms of service. We'll give you some money to redo that road.
I guess so. There's multiple ways to go
No,
about it.
that's how it would work. That.
Well, yeah, no, I know. There's different ways to go about this, and I feel like complicating it like that makes it harder to keep streamlined.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's just my hatred of the federal government and how I would fix it. But
if I could make it so that state governments would do it all, I would. But they won't all do it because there's 50 of them, and the odds are not in my favor.
Yeah, I don't know what the actual odds are, but it'll be interesting to see how this folds out.
Yeah, it really will.
We are at an hour and 30 minutes, so I think that's going to be about it for us. I don't know if we really need clothing or do we? Do you want to?
I would like to do a bit of closing statement because we went in this. I do like your economic approach. That was very creative.
Thank you.
Because you managed to find a way to put the libertarian philosophy into police.
I'm telling you, it's crazy. I mean, I think that's what our next podcast should be.
Authoritarian versus libertarian.
Yeah. Be like, yeah. I like that. Okay. We got an idea.
Okay.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah.
All right, continue. Sorry.
My final thoughts for this are that society... Oh, I actually want to ask one final question. It'll be quick. How much reform is too much?
Reform of what?
Society, law, and... At what point would you say reforming the...
When you go past life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
All right, that's good to know.
So that would be like allowing people to kill each other.
Okay. Yes, it does. That is a good way to put it.
Well, that's what I think the basis of law should be anyway. So.
It should, but sometimes it needs to be a little bit more specific. But that's the topic for another time. Anyway, my final thoughts on the issue are that George Floyd should not have died, and that police officer should have been completely absent from the station a long time ago. I think there needs to be more regulation on the police and less militarization, and I think that that's going to help overall. There's no way to stop racism other than through education, which I have applied for, believe it or not. And it's really sad what keeps happening. And it's amazing that the police keep doing it. Or these police that see it and then have the bad publicity, and then they just keep somebody else does it. I don't know. It's weird how that keeps happening. But regardless, that's how I think it should be a moment to consider great reform.
I think we need to fundamentally get back to what government is supposed to do.
Yes.
What police are supposed to do in that sense. And I think that gets you closer to your issue. Again, that doesn't fix stupidity, and I would argue that deregulation on the employee rights would turn that cycle over faster. But I think in the end, me and you want to accomplish the same thing.
Yes.
But go about it very differently.
I wouldn't mind putting it together. I wouldn't. I love compromise. It's what the Constitution feeds us.
It's the great compromise in itself. It's why
Henry Clay
would have been better than Ronald Reagan. I don't know about
God, yeah.
But I think I think the problem is people don't understand what their job is actually supposed to be.
Yeah.
And do I think that's part of the system? Yes. But I also think it's not just the police system. I think
It's a
it's
lot of
the
systems on top of
government
each other. Yeah.
system that is the problem. So when you see something like this and say, I'm going to vote liberal because of this, I would argue that's actually, you're moving in the wrong direction, because I would argue more system is bad. You know, if you think the system is bad, you want less of it. So
Right.
I would encourage people to realize there is more to the system. I guess I'll leave it at that.
All right. Yeah. That's it for today, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.
Adios.
Buy Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition.
You got that in, FYI.